All right, everyone, getting ready for those UPSC exams? You ready for a deep dive?
Always ready.
Today, we're taking on the T-Horse Road.
Ah, fascinating.
Yeah, I was reading up on it. I gotta say,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't just some obscure historical footnote.
Right.
I mean, this thing is relevant for prelims, for mains, for
Absolutely.
anyone trying to grasp India-China
Oh,
relations,
for sure.
even global trade, how cultures mix.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all connected.
So, are you ready to hit the road?
Let's go.
Now, when we think historical trade routes, everyone jumps to the Silk Road, right?
Yeah, that's the big one, the glamorous one. Silks, spices, all those luxurious goods.
But the T-Horse Road,
This was different.
totally. This was about necessities, the essentials.
Exactly. It connected communities in a way that really fueled their basic survival.
And we're not talking some leisurely stroll here.
No.
This was over 2,000 kilometers
Wow.
from Yunnan province in China
Mm-hmm.
all the way through Tibet,
Right.
even reaching parts of India.
It's a journey, that's for sure.
And it wasn't a walk in the park.
Right.
I mean, I was reading about those conditions, the high altitudes,
Oh, yeah.
those mountain passes, treacherous,
Absolutely.
and the weather, brutal.
Talk about an epic adventure.
Makes you really appreciate the traders, their resilience.
Oh, for sure. And it wasn't just the physical stuff they had to deal with.
Right. What do you mean?
Well, think about it. They were navigating, complex political situations, cultural differences. It was a lot to handle.
Absolutely. And those caravans, laden with tea and horses, why those two things? It's not silk and spices, the usual suspects.
It's all about context.
Okay, explain.
So picture Tibet. High altitude, harsh climate. You've got nomadic people, right? What do they need to survive? Warmth, energy, endurance.
Yeah.
And what provides all that? Tea.
Makes sense. Especially with a little yak butter mixed in.
Oh, yeah. The yak butter tea, a calorie beast you need in that environment. It was a lifeline for them.
Yak butter tea. Not my cup of tea, personally, but I see the necessity. But China. They had vast resources, powerful dynasties. Why so reliant on horses from Tibet?
Good question. Shows their priorities back then. See, while China did have some horse production, it wasn't enough. Not the quality, not the quantity, especially for their military.
I see.
And remember, constant threats, especially from those Mongol tribes. You need a strong cavalry for defense.
Makes sense. Tibet, with all those grasslands, expert horse breeders, perfect supplier. Simple trade, but such a revealing window into geopolitics back then. But this wasn't just casual bartering, right?
Oh, no. As that trade along the T-Horse Road grew, so did the need for structure, control. That's where the Tang Dynasty steps in.
So they saw the value.
Oh, yeah, strategic and economic. They got it. They took steps, made things official, regulated it all.
Give us the specifics. What'd they do? Checkpoints, taxes, permits?
All that and more. They set up official markets along the route. Imagine, designated hubs for trading, everything monitored, taxes collected, disputes settled.
Like early border control meets economic policy.
Exactly. We even have records, rules about the goods, types, and quality. It wasn't a free-for-all.
Wow, that's incredible. A sophisticated system way back then. Makes you wonder, any unintended consequences? New problems for traders?
Good point. While that regulation brought stability and revenue, think about it. Bureaucracy, potential for corruption, maybe even black markets popping up to dodge the rules. Good intentions, unintended outcomes, it happens.
Fascinating stuff. Every layer we peel back just gets more complex. It's not just tea and horses. It's economics, politics, culture, all intertwined on this one route.
And that's what makes it such a gold mine for UPSC prep, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This T-Horse Road, it's like a microcosm of all those historical forces that shaped not just China and Tibet, the whole region, really.
You said it.
And it's not just ancient history either. I mean, 20th century rolls around, things get really shaken up.
Oh, for sure. World wars, political landscape shifting, all of it impacted the T-Horse Road.
We went from bustling trade route to strategic lifeline in times of war and now.
Well, now it's a symbol of cultural heritage, a revival of sorts. But each phase, full of lessons about history, geography, geopolitics, you name it.
Getting more and more intriguing by the minute. Can't wait to dig into those later chapters of the T-Horse Road story.
It's a wild ride.
So we're talking 20th century now? The T-Horse Road facing some serious upheaval?
Definitely a time of change. You had the fall of the Tang Dynasty in 1911, then China integrating into the global market. Huge impact.
Big shifts, yeah.
And Yunnan's tea production, already important, suddenly even more in demand.
Ah, so more activity along the route.
You bet. It's like that saying, when the going gets tough.
The puff get going.
Exactly. The T-horse road kept adapting, but then World War II, game changer.
Oh yeah, things got real serious then.
Japan invades China. The T-horse road, it becomes a lifeline.
Not just for trade anymore.
No, sir. We're talking military equipment, supplies, troops, all moving through those mountain passes.
Wow, can you imagine?
It was a whole different kind of caravan.
The T-horse road. From
Oh.
trade and culture to a vital artery in a global conflict.
Absolutely. And talk about logistics, right?
Oh, I bet. Getting all that stuff through those trails, the terrain, must have been a nightmare.
It was. And it really shows, for UPSC folks especially, how geography affects military strategy.
Cool, for sure.
The T-horse road, that tough landscape, it played a role in China's resistance.
Classic example. Geography shaping history. And what I find so interesting is how something so ancient suddenly becomes crucial on the world stage. Like, whoa, the T-horse road matters.
Exactly. But then the war ends. What happens next?
Good question. Does it go back to business as usual, or?
Well, 1949, big changes again. People's Republic of China, land reforms, modernization, new transportation.
So things are changing rapidly.
They are. And the T-horse road's role as a major trade route, it starts to fade.
End of an era. Progress marching on.
In a way, yes, but it doesn't just disappear. Its legacy, especially in the culture of those regions, that remains. And lately, we're seeing a revival.
Really? Like people using it again?
Not exactly. It's more of a cultural heritage thing. Tourism.
Oh, right. I've seen pictures of Lijiang. Beautiful. All those old buildings, the mountains.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site now?
Amazing.
Yeah.
But why the sudden interest? Is it just about the tourism money, or is there something more to it?
Good question. Economics are definitely part of it, but there's also a strategic element, I'd say.
How so?
Well, think about it. China promoting the T-horse road, emphasizing those historical links, especially with neighbors like India. It's a way
Of
of,
showing connection, a shared past.
precisely, building goodwill, maybe even strengthening diplomatic ties, a way of saying, hey, we go way back, let's work together.
Smart. And a great point for those studying for the UPSC. This revival, it's history being used for modern geopolitics.
Absolutely. It's not just about what happened, it's about how we interpret it and use it today.
Really makes you think. The T-horse road, ancient history, still echoing in the present, shaping international relations, economics, even how we see each other.
That's the power of history. And it leads to a really important question for our listeners, especially those prepping for the UPSC. How do you think the legacy of the T-horse road, all that cooperation, but also conflict, how might that influence the future between India and China?
Okay, so let's get to that big question lingering out there.
The million-dollar question.
How might all this T-horse road history, the legacy of it all, shape the future between India and China?
Big one. Yeah. Tricky, too.
That's what makes it such a great deep dive topic.
Oh, for sure. Especially for those UPSC folks. Gets those brains working.
Absolutely. But I guess to start, we got to address the elephant in the room.
Or maybe the dragon and the tiger.
Right. We've got this narrative of being connected. Centuries of it, thanks to the T-horse road.
Exchange, cooperation, all part of the story.
Yet, right now, India and China, there's tension.
It's putting it mildly.
Border disputes, competing economies, both vying for power in the Asian century. It's a lot. So how do we square that circle? Shared past, but kind of a strained present.
Well, that's where understanding history, really getting it, that's crucial.
Yeah.
See, the T-horse road shows us that working together, that exchange, it's in the DNA of the relationship, not just conflict.
Interesting point.
So maybe that historical lens, it gives us a way to talk, find that common ground again, maybe build some bridges across the rough spots.
I like that. Like saying, hey, remember when we did this together? Remember how well that worked?
Right. That shared memory, it can help.
But come on, let's be real. Just mentioning the T-horse road isn't going to magically fix everything.
No, of course not. Geopolitics today, way more complicated. But still, acknowledging that shared history, it's a start, builds trust, understanding, reminds us that cooperation, even when you're competing, it can be good for everyone.
Right, like we could be rivals, but still remember we were good teammates once.
Exactly.
Maybe that context helps us approach things better going forward. So for all those future policymakers out there, the UPSC preppers, what's the takeaway from all this T-horse road stuff?
I think it's a masterclass, honestly.
Oh, How so?
It shows you the ins and outs of international relations, how much history matters, how culture, heritage that gets used to shape the story. All stuff that's right there in the UPSC syllabus. History, geography, international relations, even economics.
So it's not just some history lesson. It's a way of thinking about the world, especially India and China. Powerful stuff.
It is. And I think the biggest takeaway is that the Tea-Horse Road, sure, it's the past. But what it represents, the lessons we can learn from it, those are vital for figuring things out today and building a better tomorrow.
Well said. So, to wrap up this deep dive into the Tea-Horse Road, I want to leave everyone with a thought.
Okay.
How can we, not just governments, but all of us, use the lessons of history, of shared experiences like what happened on that road, to create a future that's more peaceful, more prosperous?
Big question, I know, but worth thinking about.
It really is. And anyone listening, share your thoughts, your insights down in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going.
Awesome. And while you're down there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives just like this, and definitely check out the original article over at the Indian Express. And that's where we got all this great info. Links in the description. Until next time, keep chasing those UPSC dreams. And remember, history. It's not just about what happened. It's about shaping what comes next.